Good evening, everybody.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Akim. I see everybody on, but I think they're waiting until 1 minute after 7. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping. Good evening.
Good evening, Miss.
I want to, at this time, apologize for Friday, but I'm sure you all did not mind. Or am I? Not nice. Yes? So today's Tuesday, and every Tuesday feels like Monday to me. Because Mondays are the day that you get over the weekend. So my Tuesdays are my Mondays. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have to get the ball a rolling because just missing 1 week can really put us not far behind, but it can cause us a little hitch. So, what say all of you, those who are in my hair ring? I was about to say hair shot of my voice.
What say us about what? Please repeat what you said there.
Oh, how have you all been?
Oh, good. I was just reading this new update from the BBC about what's happening in India. So that was a highlight of something I noted today while going through some lectures. The Nipah virus outbreak.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. And did I hear that Mrs. Holness is in India? I don't know which section, but I heard today that she's in India.
Yep.
Okay, here's somebody. Thank you. All right. So we have to be careful. Have to be careful. I was in a session last evening, and somebody from the session just said to me earlier that that she is not feeling well. She's having sniffles and something else she said, and we were in a chat group physically together. So I guess we all have to be very careful. We all have to be very careful and stop pretending like we don't know that the COVID is here, has been here, is going nowhere, and that this season facilitates its proliferation. Isn't that? Those are the words, my medics. I tell you that I like when during COVID, when Dr. Tufton would come on and tell his clinicians, and he would tell all of the world that he is handing over to his clinicians. I thought that was just very nice of him to, because he knows the gentleman is not a doctor, and although he holds a doctorate, he's not a doctor, and he would always hand over to his clinicians. And Mrs. Bisesa Mackenzie would just fix us. For those who can understand and those who can't, you get further discussion and so on. But it was an interestingly scary time. I must say, an interesting, scary time. So Akeem, what did you learn about the discussion coming out of India?
Regarding the Nipah virus?
Yes. And
Well,
spell it for me.
NIPAH. NIPAH.
N as in nice.
N as in nice. IPAH.
Nita.
Nipah. P as in play.
Oh, so it's NIPAH.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Nipah virus.
Right.
Yes.
It's a zoonosis. Also bats. Some of those zoonotic infections. Pigs, fruit bats, and so on to humans. Right. And yeah, they said they had they had a case that involved some patient in Western Bengal, India, and it was in a private hospital, and the doctor, the nurse, and another medical staff got infected, and they've already quarantined several contacts of all of them.
Okay.
To at this time, and I think it was today. It was just was yesterday or today, if I'm not mistaken. But it's very, very recent, to the extent that some airports, a couple airports in Asia, in Southeast Asia, and Indian subcontinent have started screenings at the airports, in light of the potential, because it's apparently on the WHO's what you call it. It's on their it's in their top 10, if I'm not mistaken, with COVID-19 and Zika, because of its potential to trigger a pandemic. It's on it. But
because I'm, as I say, I'm looking at something that is telling me, I don't know which site. Oh, Washington Post. What to know about deadly Nipah virus and outbreaks in India. And this note.
Oh, you found it? Okay, great.
Yes, this notification is 36 minutes ago.
Right. I think it was today. Is that a yesterday or today?
Yes. Yeah, so there is, it has triggered Asia's airport screening. So the outbreak in India has triggered Asia airport screenings. Yes, it is here. And
no,
then
we don't want to say that. We're hoping it's not here.
But, and what I was about to say is all of these things become a public health emergency.
Yes, it does.
Right. And when it becomes a public health emergency, it means money has to be spent.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can spend the money early.
Okay. And then there are other things that the money needed to be spent on before. But we need to know where it is going to come from. I'm talking money. I talk money. Where it is going to come from and how we're going to facilitate all of the things that need to be done. Do you remember when? Yeah, of course, you almost remember when Haiti had its earthquake and the peacekeepers came and brought typhoid. Was it typhoid?
I think it was
Whatever.
cholera.
Cholera. Yes.
Right.
And brought
Yeah.
cholera. No?
It
Wow.
was disastrous on top of
Yes.
the earthquake.
Yes. Yes. So, you have to be so very careful. Teaching, honey, teaching. I'm teaching. Mhm. All right. So yes, I like to do this. I'm also using it tonight as an icebreaker because I didn't think of any icebreakers. So my opening remarks, I like to do my opening remarks. And I listened to the news today, but there was nothing that affected what we are doing. But Akeem is paying attention and he came with something that I have not heard. I have not heard about this virus. But also we are now recognizing that it is important for us to pay attention to what is going on. And for persons my age and beyond, for us to encourage them to wear masks, continue to wear masks, and continue to be conscious of where to go and where not to go, because some places you don't need to. All right? So where are we? What have you learned since you're here with me?
The rules of engagement and how we spend other people's money.
That is such a wonderful affirmation. If I could give you the PhD, I would give it to you, Noreen. Yes. Yes, it is important for us to know the rules of engagement when you're spending other people's money. Yes. Okay, Denise, I see that hand. I see that hand. Yes, Denise, I see your hand. I still see your hand, Denise. All right. So the last time we were together, we were talking about strategic planning. You still want to talk, Denise? Open your mic. We're talking about strategic planning, and I'm still seeing Denise hand up, and she's not saying anything. So I wanted to continue because we're going to look at the strategic management process. And years ago, when I teach this thing, I know that I'm teaching people about the strategic management process. But over time, I think most persons, once you step into a classroom, once you are going to do anything that involves studying, you're going to meet the strategic management process. And I would like to go through the strategic management process with you. I'm going to be adding some things because as I speak, things will come to mind and I'll speak about it. But then on Friday, I'm going to have us do some work. All right, we're going to begin to dirty our hands in looking at our situations and then come up with strategic plans and begin to decide how are we going to budget? What are we going to budget for? Keeping in mind what is happening in the world at large. keeping in mind what is happening in Jamaica at large. I go to world because as small as we are, we have people moving through Jamaica. I mean, constantly. So although we are small, and that is why we need to pay attention, because if we have persons coming from all over the world and coming into this small space, then the powers that be in relation to health and especially public health need to be aware and providing us with constant information. And the can I call you all movers and shakers? Yes, because you are the persons who I would come to. I would come to you before I go to a policymaker. And you are going to assist the policymakers in identifying what things they need to make rules and laws and legislations for, because you are dealing with us and you are aware of the things that are out there and can affect us. All right? Because you have to feed, as I said earlier, you have to feed Minister of Health and Wellness the information, because he has his head in another space in relation to his competence, right? Because he's not a medic, right? Okay. So I'm going to go to my handout and we're going to talk about the strategic management process. And the strategic management process is quite an interesting all right. It's coming up. All right, we're about here now. The last thing we looked at was this, looking at the strategic, the benefits of strategic planning. I won't review that. I'll just go straight to the strategic management process. Sebastian, can you remove the caption for me? I would like to go to slideshow. Thank you. It's at the top. All right, I'm going to continue until this thing moves. It moved a while ago and came back. All right, so we're going to get into it. Okay, I need people to talk to me tonight, all right? So that we keep on that. We keep going. All right. Okay, so one of the things in the strategic management process is the whole business of recognizing, as I said earlier, what is happening outside. And I'm going to talk two things now. We have moved from two budgeting formats to know what is referred to as a program budget format. The first budget format we had was a line item budget. The line item budget identified the things that we needed to spend the money on. All right, beautiful. And I tell you, the line item budget was used to prevent persons from spending money or too much money in areas that were not necessarily considered important to the public. what might be important to the person who is responsible for the area or the person who had the bigger talk. So when the line item budget came, it stemmed that beautifully, that up to this point in time, when we are using the program budget, that element of the line item budget continues to be part of what happens, because it identifies the inputs, right? And the inputs become what we are going to be recording as the items we're spending money on. So the line item budget, I think I told you, looks like your grocery list, right? And among the items that government spends money on is groceries, factor. Because you all know that you have coffee and tea and crackers and so on in your organizations. And if there's a special function or if there's a special workshop or seminar or meeting, there is lunch. All right. So food is literally listed. Okay. But then we list all the items that other people money is spent on. And chief among them is our salaries. All right. So I don't want to get off too far, but we will come back to it. So what happened was that, as I said, the population became more interested in paying attention to what is happening around them and wanting to know. So you have all of this money to spend. What did you spend it on? Why did you spend it? I am not seeing and I'm not receiving anything better and different. All right. So it made management sit up and say, let us now adopt what is happening, especially in the private sector, and begin to provide stakeholders, because every voter is a stakeholder. All the non-voter is a stakeholder, because they still have to exist on the island. All right. Needs to know, needs to have an idea of what is happening. So the concept of the strategic plan came. But before that, there was the issues paper. And I refer to it because every time I refer to it, I told you how the Jamaican civil servants are the best, because they just put a T before it. All right. The issues paper. All right. And the issues paper also was done to provide information to the public, because whatever government does, it is doing it on a contractual basis with the people in the country, whichever country it is. All right. Whatever governments do, they do it as a contract with the people. And some of us don't know how much rights as a people we have. But that is for the political lecture and the person who studied politics to teach it, not me. Okay. So with the advent of all of these discussions in these different parleys and the different groupings of countries, I like to talk about the group of 77, the group of 7, and so on. You know that Jamaica is not part of the group of 7. We're a part of the group of 77. Then came the Millennium Development Goals. And out of the Millennium Development Goals, we had our strategic plan, and the strategic plan steered us to Vision 2030. And you all know that Vision 2030 is specific to Jamaica, is specific to, as a matter of fact, it is so specific to Trinidad that Trinidad didn't have a Vision 2030. They had a Vision 2020. Right? I don't know. I know that most of them have a Vision 2030, but Trinidad had 2020. We were also told, just to talk about Trinidad a little more, that in the late 60s, going into the 70s, Trinidad did a revamp and a reverting, not reverting, it's not reverting, but they looked at their machinery and redid their machinery in Trinidad. Right? So there is that concept of the whole Trinidad situation being that way. One, because Trinidad has oil, and therefore they were able to do things that maybe Jamaica was able to do because of money situation. All right. Having recognized that people need to know, and at the international level, we were being taught how to make sure that the stakeholders who are the voters are aware and are participating and can participate. The strategic plan was then forged as a prerequisite to doing your program budget. All right. So we started out with an issues paper when we looked at the performance budgeting, and that bit of information caused the program budget to be looked at. So we programize. As a matter of fact, what they said was that the performance budget did not give you a true measure, and some of the areas could not be measured. But if you programize the activities, you can then identify key result areas, and from those key result areas, you could measure. And you know this, there's an adage which says that the things that are measured are what is done, right? Things that are measured, those are the things that we pay attention to. So in teaching how to get a strategic plan in place, the strategic management process was brought to the fore. And this is how the strategic management process is figured. So you start with the strategic analysis. And that strategic analysis looks at the SWOT analysis. And my most favorite analysis is the stakeholder analysis. Having completed, and we're going to go through this in a little while, having completed the strategic analysis, then we move to the strategic choice. And the strategic choice is based on the organizations, the ministries and departments coming up, generating options, evaluating those options using all kinds of evaluation tools, money tools, social tools. But you have funding, and you have what do you call them, safety nets. A lot of the safety nets that are around are as a consequence of generating and speaking to how we're going to get these things done. And then finally selecting what it is we're going to be doing. Having selected, then there is the implementation. And we're using, I'm using the this is the other thing called, okay, sorry. I'm using the McKinsey's 6 S's model. He has since added another S to it, but I'll go through the six S's because they are the foundation of the implementation that is used. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go through the strategic analysis, because what the strategic analysis does is to identify where you are identify where we are, and then give us the opportunity to say, how are we going to get to that place where we want to be? However, we now have to decide, where do we want to be? What is that? What is that place? As I said, I think I shared it with you already. The professor said, when you put your feet up on your desk at 4 o'clock on a Friday evening, what does that place look like? Because we're doing it on Friday because we have spent the whole week working. What does it look like? And that is how we're going to come up with where it is we want to go and how we're going to get there. Because I tell people all the time, when it comes to strategies is just is telling you how, right? How are we going to do this thing? How are we going to do it? How are we going to move? Are we going to drive? Are we going to fly? How are we going to get there? The emphasis on internal strengths and weaknesses are usually easy. They usually say that one is easy. Internal strengths and weaknesses. And then you have external opportunities and threats. And the new kid on the block is pesty. And steep was in my time. But pesty is a new acronym for what is considered a deep dive into the external opportunities and threats. And we'll get there. So talk back to me now. Are you all familiar with the SWOT analysis? Yes? Are you all familiar with the SWOT analysis?
Yeah.
Good. Yes, all right. So I can move right along. Okay, all right. Now, one of the things that I always like to pay attention to is employees, because employees can be both strength and weakness. And usually they are, and they are internal, right? In those early days when we were becoming acquainted with the SWOT analysis, we would think that because an employee is not moving with what is happening, then they are then they're a threat. No, they're really a weakness. And as an organization, we would spend a lot of time trying to make the weak ones stronger and not identifying how we can further those who are strong and make them stay. Because a number of times we have had situations where a person, we call it attrition in HR, we would have people go because they are and they are good. But the concentration of management and the organization on a whole is to bring those who are not believing, all right, up to the point where they will participate and so on. So I'm sure all of you remember those team building exercises, don't it? All of the team building exercises. That's where I get all of my icebreakers from. All right. And when you think of some of the team building exercises, you shake your head. All right. So in recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of an organization, the strengths and weaknesses in your department, and the strengths and weaknesses in you becomes important. Because let me start with the strengths and weaknesses in you. This is where, you remember when I spoke on financial management concern, and I said you need to train your people? As leaders, You need to understand your own shortcomings and begin to decide, what are you going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? Right? What am I going to do? Where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? And begin the strategic management process with yourself. Right? My strengths, my weaknesses. Where am I? Where am I heading? Where do I want to go? Right? You look in the organization and you begin to design how you're going to move yourself, your department, and your organization to that line of sight, And as I said before, for us in government, for us in the private sector, the line of sight is Vision 2030. Vision 2030 is not government. Vision 2030 is Jamaica. So all of us must wake up each morning knowing Jamaica, the place of choice to live, work, raise family, and do business. That is supposed to be our mantra. And wherever you are living on this platform, it is the same thing for you. You get up each morning to make your country great. Right? If you want to add again to it, your business, mean a business with again, to make your country great. Because when our countries are great, being on a list of 75 don't cause us any kind of furrow, don't it? Yes. My mother tells me that Jamaicans formerly headed to South America. Right? And just this evening, I was listening to an ad, and the prize was a trip to a South American country. Granted, all we need is pollo. We don't need nothing else, don't it? We only need pollo. Don't, ladies and gentlemen, don't talk to me now. We only need to know pollo. What is pollo?
That's chicken.
Oh, we don't need to know nothing else. You remember when Usain Bolt went to China? You remember what he said he ate? Anybody remember what he said he ate? Chicken nuggets. And I have a family member who did not live in Jamaica during the time when Usain Bolt was making us think that the only position on the podium is first place. That young man spoiled us rotten to the point where now, if it is not first, it's not. Right? So he thought of chicken and he recognized that chicken would save him. All right. So on a serious note, when we do our SWOT analysis, we're looking at the situation as it exists now. All right. We're looking externally at the opportunities and threats. And we're further looking externally at the opportunities and threats as we look at the social, the technological, the environmental, the, I think is economy, and the other one is politics. I should have kept the other one because I think it's called pestle. You can all look at it, but they're all the same. Because you're looking at the opportunities and threats in relation to the social situations that are out there. You're looking at the technology, and you know how I am with the technology. All right? I am for AI. I am for AI. Because if we don't learn, we are going to be left behind. All right? So we need to understand and move with the technology. It is a technology while you are where you are and I am where I am, and we can be having this conversation. We must look at the environment. I'm in this room and I'm hot. I have on my fan, but I have turned it down low. But I have siblings abroad who are in awful weather. Okay? And guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? Our awful weather, I think, lasted 2 days. 2 days. I remember that we've had hurricanes that is just one day, but I think this one came with rain the day after. All right? But look at what it has done. Look at what it has done to the hospitals. There's a picture coming on, I don't know if it's shortly or sometime this week, where the nurse said, "Sir, I let go. I screamed and bawled." Right? Internal strengths and weaknesses. I have a friend who she's a senior officer at one of the hospitals in Kingston. And when we spoke to her on Friday, before the hurricane, she says we are camping out from now. So she was at the hospital from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. When did the hurricane come? Wednesday? Tuesday, Wednesday?
Right? Yeah, it was around Tuesday, Wednesday, because it kept on pushing back.
Yes, right.
The 28th. Yeah.
20, yes, but I wanted to know the day, because what I'm saying is that this lady had been at the hospital from the Friday, camping out, right? This is a person that I knew, but the person on the television that said that she couldn't hold it anymore. And what I heard her say, but didn't say, is that as a nurse, she's supposed to have a certain decorum and she's supposed to be confident and but she couldn't keep it anymore. She said she bawled out, right? She said she screamed out. One said, "I thought we were going home to glory." And I like how they did it. They made it, gave a little time before she said the glory part, right? So when it comes to identifying your strengths and your weaknesses and identifying the opportunities and the threats, that is where you need to drill down to this deep. Somebody find the pestle for me now and remind me what it is. All right. All right. So it's social, technological, environmental, economic, and political. And when it comes to political, I like to tell people that there are two P's. There is a big P, which is politics as we know it, JLP, PMP, and then there is organizational politics. All right. Who wants that position? Who is going to do what and what? So all of these things must be taken into consideration when you're doing your SWOT analysis, where you're going to get that information to inform your strategic plan. And I tell you, the other analysis that I would like and I have done and like to do is the stakeholder analysis. So the first analysis is referred to as the environmental analysis or the situational analysis, where you're looking at what the situation is now, all right? And how, in relation to where you want to go, what are your options based on what you have. And I have experiences. I told you that I went through a movement from a department to an executive agency. So you watch that process and you learn from that process. The stakeholder analysis now is where we have expectation, we have objectives, power, and we have concerns and interests. And these are what your stakeholders hold And let me tell you something. Some of these expectations, objectives, power, concerns, and interests can make or break your organization. So this analysis becomes important. So what is the expectation? You remember my example that I used? Inoculation of babies 0 to 12 months. And we recognize that there are two groups that we have to deal with, because the babies are your primary stakeholders, but the babies cannot come to you, right?
Right, the babies and the parents.
The parent.
Right, but the main stakeholder are the babies, right? But those babies' wellness impacts their parents and the wider society. Because when a baby is ill, mommy can't go to work. And worse if is mommy alone. All right? There is also a situation where it could be daddy alone and daddy can't get to go to work. And compounding that, if you work in a situation where you're paid daily, instead of having a salary, you are giving out, you're earning a wage. So you know if you don't come to work today, you lose that $10,000. All right? Or you lose that $5,000, or you lose that $15,000 because you're working in that situation. So the expectation, you will now have to identify through the stakeholder analysis, what are your stakeholders' expectations? What are their objectives? Are they agreeing with you? Do they agree with what you want to get done? Because you now have to identify them and set up your table and then indicate what are the things that you now have to address. And stakeholders have power. I'm sure you all know that. Stakeholders have power. They can stop things from happening and they can make things happen. And your stakeholders will have concerns in relation to what you're going to do, and they will have interest in what you're going to do. The concerns will cause your stakeholders to be ambivalent, because they're concerned, they're not sure. But you see, when they have interest in what you're doing and they think that what you're doing is good, then it is all go, right? So it's your SWOT and stakeholder analysis. These are just two of the different strategic analyses that you can use. But especially the SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis has been used in all different forms to identify where organizations are, because you're looking at the gap between where you are and where you want to go. And I think sometimes they refer to it as a gap analysis too. When we generate options, we're generating options in relation to expenditure. How much is it going to cost? We evaluate these options in relation to what is the key points and what are the benefits to the individuals, benefits to the organization, benefits to the community. Looking at that. So we're doing financial evaluation, and we're doing financial evaluation, and we're doing social evaluation. The social network is not networking, the social net I was talking about reminded me of what is happening now, especially with older folks, where you now have different ways of getting a benefit. this is just jumped into my mind and I'm speaking it as an example. All right. So you have NIS pension. You have NIS pension is broken down into different categories. Then you have PATH, all right, and then you have there's this new one where you get it every 2 months. Can somebody remind me what that one is called? And you get it at age 75 and beyond. And all of these things become part of your tools that you're going to use to do your analysis. Because it is out of doing these analyses that these additional payment options are available to seniors. Just using this example for now, right? And then you select the strategies. How are we going to do it? Let me go back to my babies, all right? I could ask, how did we manage the immunization of babies 0 to 12 months during the COVID period? What did we do? How did we do it? Was it beneficial? Did it maintain the percentage of inoculated babies 0 to 12 as we did before COVID? And if we didn't, how far did we go? And therefore, what have we done to build back our rate at 85, 90% of babies being inoculated and being ready for school? And remember, I shared with you, and I'm sure you all know, that this was a strategy that they used on the Rastafarians when they decided that they didn't want their children to be inoculated. Right? They said that, okay, so they can't come to school. All right. I keep going back. Why am I? Oh, okay. So strategic implementation. By the way, any questions?
Well, someone commented in the chat. This is,
Oh,
I think it's Petrie. Oh, the social pension program. I think that's what you were referring to.
yes, thank you. Yes, read the chat for me because I'm concentrating on this. Yes, thank you. All right. Social pension, yes. 75. Let me write it down so that I will remember it. Social pension. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to be using McKinsey's 6 S's model. Yeah, and I'm going to stay with this. The chart that I'm going to show you will show you the 7 S's, but I'm going to stick to the 6 S's. Having decided that you're going to implement a strategic plan, the methodology that McKinsey has proffered is one where you look at the staff, you look at the skill, the system, the structure, the style, and shared values. When we look at staff, as I alluded to during the discussion of the SWOT analysis, we look at the strengths and the weaknesses of the staff. Okay? In looking at the strengths and weaknesses of the staff, there are also staff who are not necessarily ready to move with you where you're going. So they have the skill. They are quite good when you in relation to your weaknesses and strength, but they do not want to come with you. So that is something that in the 6 S's model, McKinsey tells us that we need to pay attention to. So in your developmental program, as you move your strategy, your change, as you move, you will have to pay attention to staff and pay attention to what they are bringing to the table. Okay? And having identified the staff you are going to need, then you have to come up with ways how you're going to get that staff into the organization. Because if you're going strategic, there's some fundamental changes that you are going to be making, especially when it comes to technology and automation. Okay? Because we learn that the management of information is not technology. The application of automation. What did I say? Because most people think that when we talk about management and management and management information, that we are talking about automation. And we learned very early that automation and management information are not the same. Because if you put nonsense into automation, you're going to get nonsense out of automation. So management information of itself is to be able to use it to make a positive difference in the organization. That is what management information is. What we do to that is to add automation for speed and some level of accuracy. Because if the multiplication wrong, when you put it on the system, no matter how much speed and automation you put on it, it is still going to be wrong. All right? Because 2 times 2 is not 22. All right? No matter how that little reel played out, the lady got her $22,000 to leave. All right? Have you ever seen the reel that I'm talking about? Anybody has ever seen that reel? Yes, I pulled from all kinds of things. Akim, have you ever seen that reel?
I'm thinking, is it $22,000 she got for what?
She was the little boy did the work, and he said 2 times 2 was 22, and she said, no, you're wrong. And it caused an upstir in school. It went to school board and so on, and she was asked to withdraw. And when they gave her her letter, and they told her that she was getting $2,000, 2022 for something. No, she was getting 2,000 for 2 months or whatever. She said, no, 2 2s are 22. And based on it, it's somebody could look for it for me. Yes. And based on that, she got her $22,000. Yes, she got her $22,000. But it is there. Anybody can look for it. What that is saying is that people will place things in your brain and make you believe it. And she decided to use it against them, and she won monetarily, right? She won monetarily. But back to the whole business of looking at staff. So there are those who won't come with you. There are those who want to come, but do not have the necessary capacity at this point in time. So these are the situations that you will now have to address. So I'm not coming. I'm going someplace else. That's me. But somebody else wants to follow you, wants to come with you. But you would now need to upgrade them, right? And you will now have to decide to do that upgrading. Also, you're going to be moving into a strategic situation, and you're going to need certain competencies that you do not have at this time. So you're going to have to employ those skills into the organization. So I'm actually going into skills right now. So you will have to get those persons into the organization. So the whole business of staff and looking and deciding and doing the investigation and doing the analysis of staff becomes important. Skills are there. You are going to need new skills because you're going to be doing things differently. As was said, I think last week, you're going to be doing things. It's not business as usual, but business unusual. And when that business unusual comes in, it is saying that that staff will have to know, practice, and use skills that they may not have. So you will have to import those skills into the organization. And let me tell you something, I know that, I have experienced it. All right. I'll tell you, when we moved to an executive agency, we were now income receiving, people were paying, and we got a financial controller. And I tell you, that lady was just the boss. And I've spoken about her here already. Yes. Seeing where we were just at a department, but we became an executive agency. So therefore, we needed to employ new skills. We needed a chief executive officer. We needed a marketing. We now needed HR. We were collecting money, so we needed accounts, and not just the ordinary accounts, but where we were now recording and reporting and spending money that did not belong to you, right? So that lady came on, and she was there until she retired, right? A very long time, right? So the skill set is going to be based on what it is you're doing, where you're going, where you want to go, right? One of the skill sets now that everybody needs is AI, right? Everybody needs AI. So we're going to have to become AI competent. We can't fight it. We can't fight it. We have to learn it. All right. Just like how we learn the computer. I remember going to learn computer and telling the young man that the only thing I know about the computer is the blue light on the screen. Okay. Right. So that's it. In addition, now, so we have looked at the staff and we recognize what it is we're going to require in the person that comes and the skill sets that are going to be needed. Now we look at the systems, and I'm going to jump to my example. I just look at the example. Everybody remember when you used to have to pay to come to the hospital? I'm not talking about no. When we all had to pay to come to the hospital. And you know what the public did? The public came to the hospital at 5 o'clock in the evening. You know why they came to the hospital at 5 o'clock in the evenings, ladies and gentlemen? Anybody remember that and experienced it?
I didn't have the experience, Doc.
You didn't have the experience. Anybody else? Where is Mrs. Williams Raynor?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
Also, no, it
You
may
don't
have been
recall?
too long ago. No.
Yes, it was long
To pay
ago.
to go to the hospital.
No,
no user fees are is
that
that
yes.
much in my mind.
Okay, okay. So what
Mrs.
happened?
Sykes,
Yes, ma'am.
is it because at that time most of the accounting persons are already gone home?
Thank
I'm
you.
just thinking.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So what happened? I don't know who did the the, the strategic analysis, but the collection of fees ended at 5 o'clock when the accounts persons went home. Correct, Doreen. Yes, you were there. I was there too. And
Yes,
so,
I was.
and so, and so, this gave us as trainers the most fabulous example of not recognizing that systems also need to be strategic. You notice what I said? I never said change. I said strategic. Right? Your systems need to be strategic because it has to go in tandem with where you want to go and what you want to accomplish at the end of the day. So I used to say my fabulous Jamaican people went to the hospitals at 5 o'clock. When guess what? And you can't turn them back because that system existed long ago. You cannot turn back a patient because the patient don't pay. You have to deal with the patient. Can anybody tell me how they remedied that system? Anybody remember what they did?
They assigned the officers to shift system, so they worked the 3 shifts. Well,
One,
that's what they did.
yes,
That's
one,
what I saw.
yes, that's one. But there was another one. They had assessors. So if you come in at a certain time after the shifts have ended, because the shifts didn't go beyond 10 o'clock. You could register and be served up to 10 o'clock. And if you come in after 10 p.m., then there were assessors who would come in the morning, do the assessment of persons, because they would know who came in.
Yes, I remember that.
Right, right. And then they would then know who needed to do the necessary registration um, at, at the beginning of the next day, right? But this was just fabulous for us, you know, because you now need to recognize that it is not just the top of the organization, but it comes right down to that plaster. It comes right down to that first aid, whatever. Everything needs to be part of a system that is moving forward, that is moving strategically. Right? And structure, as I said, the structure is how how will the organization look in the future, right? And I said in my organization we were a department, we became an executive agency, so we needed a CEO, we needed the different heads of the different um, main areas. We needed HR, we needed finance, we needed communication. We got planners. I always remember one of the planners, she actually came and interviewed me before she was interviewed for the job. Right? We needed planners. And I used to remember all of them. And I'm counting 8 positions when we only had like the principal no, we only had the principal can't even remember his position now. Maybe he would remember it. I was calling him and asking to remind me. All right. And then you had people on the location, at the location, who carried out secretarial work and maintenance work and so on and so forth. But the high levels, the structure literally moved and changed. All right? Actually moved and changed. So remember now what you're doing things differently. It's not business as usual, it is business unusual. And therefore, when once a person comes through the gate, you're going to be seeing that things are different. You know, some of the simple things that made it really emphasize the change. You know how to put up signs of where to meet in the event of an emergency, assembly points. The furnishing was changed. The whole look of the place was changed. A simple place like a bathroom was totally remodeled, right? To look like somewhere you would want to go, as opposed to my going to Spanish Town Hospital many, many years ago and needing for an older member of the family to use a bathroom, and nobody could identify where I could go. And somebody was kind enough to have her use a bathroom on one of the wards, because the bathroom that would be open to the public was just, yes. Right? I don't know what it is like now.
It's much better now, Mrs. Sachs. That's where I work.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Right. So, and this is part of the strategic concept. How do you want this place to look? Right? How do you want people to feel when they come here? Right? Okay. Then we go to style. I just love this, because style means just that. Style means just that. Style means this is how we do things here, not how we used to. Because you know, those of us who work in government, when you come new, they tell us, say, this is how it used to be done. All right? Okay. And the style is not only what you do, but how you present and how you present yourself. Right? I think this whole concept, whether you become an executive agency or not, I'm just enamored by the whole concept of an organization looking a certain way because they know that they're going someplace. I've been sharing, I am a part of an organization, and we were looking some persons to take on a new position. And when the ad went out, 6 persons from within the organization applied for the position. I thought that was just the bomb. We did not have to do an external invitation for persons to apply. And I was telling a group last night that the morning when I woke up, I said, I am going to assist in making somebody's life different. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sorry we never had 6 at the position, so we all 6 people. Right? Because this is saying to the CEO, that this organization has a place and is moving. Because if persons in the organization wants to remain in the organization because they see an opportunity to grow, then you're saying things, right? So the style is how we operate, right? How things are done. And how things are done is going to be strategic. So we're taking the strategic implementation throughout everything. All right. It's like threading a needle and basting something. All right. Just a simple base. We're not doing any back stitch and a fancy embroidery. Just thread the needle and make some basic um, stitching that you could use to gather if you want, all right, or to make it flat and put two material together to form a seam, right? Right. The style. Right? When I look at how some people go to work, the spandex thing that them wear, I'm so happy that in all the organizations that I have worked where they're close to me, nobody would think of wearing spandex to work. That is part of the style too. Right? So we're talking about how we do things here. We're talking about how the organization looks, the aesthetics of the organization. We're looking at when I come to work. Huh? I used to be so vexed when I put on my stocking and go work and tear. Huh? And looking when you come into where you work and you look at the place, you are not supposed to hiss your teeth. This is where the strategic management process and those who have adopted it and those who have adopted it properly have gained and continue to gain. Because that simple thing of the style, and you say, oh, it's that. No, it is important. This is how we do things here. Right? Oh, my locks came in after. I was just thinking because that was another thing. I remember one day a young lady actually had an argument with a senior officer. The senior officer said something to her, and she said, "But Mrs. Sykes," and the senior officer said, "Don't but Mrs. Sykes. I'm telling you what to do." Right. But Mrs. Sykes, yes, I always remember that. Right. Right. So all of this strategic planning process and all of it is important to understand and to impart so that persons can move with you. And I think for most organizations, no, most organizations go in strategy. I remember one day I went to Guardian Life on at the corner of I told them, I haven't been there in such a long time. On Trafalgar, 10 Trafalgar, right, or 8 or 12. And the bathroom was locked. So I was told I could get the key from the security. So, ladies and gentlemen, when I went into that bathroom, I said, yes, then have to lock this. And guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? The bathroom was used by everyone. Those who came to do business and members of staff. And that was when they were pushing out bathrooms. And that bathroom at Guardian Life really impacted me that day. Because like a bathroom, no, ladies and gentlemen, not a little bathroom. It is one of the most important places in your organization that must be upgraded. It must be upgraded, and persons who use it must understand the importance of that bathroom. It makes and breaks your organization. Right? Spend the money. I'll run enough for you. And make where you are, when you step in, it is a place of choice to work and do business. Right? Shared values. And this is where I think Mackenzie's sort of just use this to just move from one area to the other. So the style is how we do things here. But then we begin to share the values. We begin to share the why. I know that that's a new thing in the management language, right? Or whys, right? Share the values, and share the values will then bring persons to a place where they will now take a decision. Because remember, we can go right back up to staff, Because if I don't know and I see things happening, then I might just go about my business. But if I'm made aware, I will just come in and just assist in the process. But the shared values, where are we going? How are we going to get there? We're going to get there if you assist. And you're going to assist by using the skills that you have. And based on where we're going, we all have to learn new skills because we all have to use AI. All right? We all have to use the fourth industrial revolution, the Internet of Things. So we have the skills, we have to do the skills. Then we need to look at our systems because some of our systems are still not ready. I mean, every opportunity I get, I big up National Health Fund. Every opportunity I get, I big up National Health Fund. Because when we were floundering, I don't know Mr. Anderson, but I know the gentleman's name. And I don't know Charmaine Robotham. I have to remember Charmaine Robotham. I don't know them, but I know their work. I have seen it, I've experienced it, and I've experienced it about a month ago. Right? I had to upgrade somebody's health card. And when the gentleman gave it back to me in 2 minutes, he said, you can go and use it. No, I said, I used it yesterday, but it's all right. I can use it in the future. 2 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, to upgrade a health card. Right? It's a pity that we have to use NHF because we are ill. That is why we use NHF. But the level of efficiency that comes out of that organization is just, for me, mind-boggling in this Jamaica with who we have in our different organizations. And I think it's because throughout its existence, it has explained why it exists. It is the mission. The mission, why you exist. Never know, and then when you listen, you will hear the ads coming out in NHF. Right? Shared values, understanding why it is we're doing what we're doing. Why are we here? And use that to embolden what we do and how we do what we do. so that people have a feeling of elation, a feeling of giving back to their country. Because what are we doing? We're building this place so that when they tell us that we're 70, whether we are 1 or 35 or 75 of whatever, it doesn't matter. Because we have it locked and loaded right here, right now. Right? Ladies and gentlemen, we love this. All right? If we together ever go through all of these things and do what we are required to do, then we'll have a beautiful world. All right. So this is the 7 S's. All right. Your handouts are there. We're talking about moving them. All right. So there is a shared values in the center. Structure, system, style, staff, skill, strategy. All right. So this is another of this is Robert H. Waterman Jr. and Thomas Peters, Julian. Oh, they're listed all there. All right. It's another way of looking at the implementation of the strategic implementation, not the plan, implementation. All right, these are some other things that okay, let me just go through them. I wasn't going to, but let me just see what is here. The interrelation diagram. This is when you're doing the hands-on work, and we had to do the hands-on work. I'm going to say that you don't have to do the hands-on work, no, but it is good to have an understanding of where it is coming from. So at this stage of process, identify what needs to be done to move the unit department from where it is now, as defined in the SWOT analysis, to where it wants to be, as defined by the vision. So you're using the interrelation diagram to see how you're going to do what you do. A brainstorming exercise is done, and the resulting factors are grouped into categories. Though very important, ladies and gentlemen, no one person should do a strategic plan. It doesn't make sense. I do not know everything. And as I said that, I remember another mogul that we had in Jamaica. I don't know where he is now, because this gentleman says that they plan a surprise party for him and don't know that he's on the site. So all he did was to go and act surprised. He said, listen, when I come to work, I go and sit with the security guard. When I sit with the security guard, I know all that is happening in the organization from 5 o'clock in the evening till next morning. And I know everything that is happening. Why do I say that? So this brainstorming exercise, the heads of the organization cannot brainstorm alone. The heads of the organization don't know nothing. Because their head is up there. Right? This particular head said when he comes, he sit down there with the security guard, and the security guard fills him in. Right? So make sure that when you are putting your strategic plan together, at the position where you are, you need to know who are the persons that you're going to invite to join the strategic planning process. Right? Who you're going to invite. And I'm telling you, I sit on a board, right? And the watchman on the board is just fabulous. Never got it to become a doctor or to get a master's or a PhD. When you listen to that man, logics, when you listen to the man's logics. Eh? So remember that when you're planning, organize your situation so that you put your finger on everywhere the pulse. Is or are? How many of them? How many places you can feel the pulse? Clinicians? How many places you can feel the pulse?
Generally, you typically in a general physical exam, you're going for the radial pulse,
Uh-huh.
all right? But
How
you
many?
can be carotid in the case of an acute. If you have a patient that's in an emergency situation, you're going to use the carotid pulse, a central pulse. But there is femoral, there's radial, and there's carotid.
So there are four.
Unless,
Four you're counting?
unless you count those are the lower extremities like the popliteal pulse and so.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Right,
All
and
right.
dorsalis pedis, but we don't typically, unless we're examining that area
Mhm.
for some circulatory or some other issue, then we're not gonna go dorsalis pedis and.
And
But yes, absolutely.
that is where you are teaching me that is where you should go. Because the others in the organization know that is a pulse, right? That is a pulse that is usually not examined. So that is where I can operate from. All right? That is a place I can operate from because, as you have said, Dr. Thorpe, if it is not absolutely necessary, you're not going to go there. And these are the places the auditors go. These are the places the auditors go because the auditors know which pulse you might not be checking on. Right? So this is, we have taken on a clinician situation, but let it be that those of us who are not in the clinic identify the different places where things are happening and how you are going to get the information out there. Come on. Because they work. They work. Your knowledge of where it is supposed to be works. Right? Thank you for that. So brainstorming exercise is done and the resulting factors grouped into categories. So the interrelations between the areas of activity is calculated to identify driver elements. So what drives this? That is that activity that affects or drives others. Okay? So we're looking at the things that are interrelated and which are affecting how things happen. This ensures a logical development of strategies. Right? And then these are the final things I want to share with you. 6 reasons why strategic plan fails. The right people not involved in the planning process. That's what I just elaborated on. Now you need to know who is important to where you want to go. As I've been saying, it is part of the slide. Business as usual, not distinct from change activities. If you're going strategic, it is not halfway. All right. Vague mission, values, and weak organizational linkage. You're not sure of your mission, and you're not sure of your values. All right. And weak organizational linkage. The government of Jamaica has talked about joined up government. All right, joined up government. And I, for the life of me, cannot understand why joined up government can't work. Why I must take how many months to get paid when I join an organization. And this is why I say AI is coming, and AI is supposed to fix that. AI is supposed to stop having people join an organization and at the end of the month they cannot get paid. That's not supposed to happen. Not in 2026. It shouldn't have been happening from 2020. Right? But worse, 2026, you join an organization today, the 26th, 7th of the month. Why should you not get paid the 25th of February? And people are going to have and tell you as if they don't care and you better not say anything because we can make it stay a little longer. No. So mission, you must know why you exist. Values, you must know what it is that you will not put up with. And weak organizational linkage, somebody has done it already. Come and show us. Because somebody has done it already. Come and show us. Right? The other three, vague vision. I think this I was about to say this changed when we got Vision 2030. But you know what has happened? The private sector think it is government. And the public sector think it is the private sector. When are the all are we? Vague vision, strategic intent, and weak organizational linkage. We know.
Miss Sykes,
Yes, this is really
so
important.
you're saying that it hasn't worked because one group of stakeholders think it's the other and the other thinks it's them, but you've been able to identify the challenge. So why haven't we fixed it?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it is that has caused
No
us.
one wants to take the bull by its horn.
Well, might be
So
that.
it's convenient to say somebody else is responsible because I don't necessarily want to take on the responsibility.
You know, and when you say that, Warmington comes to mind.
But it's interesting that Nicole actually said that, because and you talk about stakeholder analysis.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't they want to take the bull by the horn? Is it that they weren't sold on it to begin with from Jump Street? Or is it that there is a risk, there is some kind of perceived risk to them?
Maybe both, and especially the last one, because the people have their interests. People have their interests, and they will do things to keep their interest alive and well.
But then this is where now just earlier today in health management class, we're talking about taking a systems approach to analyzing what's going on in our ecosystem. Why haven't we taken a systems approach to look at all of those little things? I mean, if people are hesitant or if they have a perceived risk of a thing, why aren't we interrogating those things so that we can avoid the so-called 3Ds, develop, distort dilemma? Why can't we, it seems like we have the information and the tools, but somehow we're not doing the thing, which is strange and weird.
Yeah. But it's not strange, it is that we are mindful of the repercussions in some instances and the ramification in some instances.
But then we're gonna end up in a spin then, Mrs. Sykes. We're gonna be in a spin all the time, reinventing the same old wheel and just on and on and on it goes. Because that Vision 2030 is a brilliant plan. I mean, to one set of stakeholders, but maybe there's a challenge with it. Maybe people don't like that tagline. The one about where you live, work.
And I find it so interesting because what happened, is that when I do it, I tell the men, you don't have to follow me, but I do. Jamaica Jamaica.
Oh, Lord.
And they laugh after me and say, Mrs. X, men not doing that. Right? The
Wow.
place of choice to live, work with. No, I don't think so. I think it's a situation where they like business as usual. And like the nurses did out in Montego Bay last week. Right? More of us need to do that. So this is one of the reasons. And the communication has been there. Maybe let me share something else with you. TVJ advertised sporting events for from now until August. Since October last year, they have been advertising the sportsman and sportsman and sportswoman of the year event to ad nauseum. I'm wondering if that is what is required of the government, the private sector to do for all of us to get the information. Because being 4 years away from the end of Vision 2030, I will tell you that there are many people who don't know, who would tell you.
I think we all just came to the same aha moment. I was about to say, we said government, we said private sector, but every single Jamaican needs to know the vision and be on board for the vision to work.
Yes.
And I think that is the problem. That every single Jamaican does not feel. We hear it and it seems so far-fetched, so far out. Especially if you think about the average person who is struggling to find food, struggling to send their children to school. Your vision sounds very hairy-fairy to them. So how do we get them? Because we need every single community. We need families to move. We need communities to move. Because we're looking at the bigger picture, not the small areas that need to move so that the whole can move.
The whole can come into that big picture. The whole can become that big picture. Because like when I think of a morning, when I drive on the road, and I think about persons going out like yesterday morning and this morning, right? And I think about children of 0, right? Who have to go out with their parents because they have to go to the nursery, right? I mean, those things are heart-rending, right? And we don't seem to see it as something that we can do something about. Why our roads have to look the way it, especially major roads, that is causing us to be in traffic. That one night when I was doing my master's, I left UE, Social Action Center. I think that's where our classes used to be, Social Action Center, right? And I left UE. I think I shared this with you already. And when I got to halfway through, I decided I was going to drive Mandela instead of coming over the causeway. I'm trying to remember if, no, I don't think there was ready yet. Trying to remember. I decided to drive Mandela. And I'm on Spanish Town Road after 10 o'clock one night. And I'm driving in 4 lanes of traffic coming to Mandela on Spanish Town Road, 10 o'clock at night. And I'll know, after all these years, I don't know what was causing the traffic. I heard Dion talking about it yesterday. If anybody can explain why Kingston have traffic the way it does, right? But sometimes that little ditch in the road, that little dig up that took place and nobody repaired it or repaired it properly. And I'm saying, we don't see that need for fix.
We have a problem with maintenance.
God have mercy, man. It's hard. It is hard. Right? See, I put up the other one, lack of data analysis during plan creation. Nobody not read nothing. Nobody not bother do nothing. Huh? And then the final one, we don't do periodic review and change the processes if the processes need changing. Right? Let me tell you something. I like the topic, but the topic is frustrating. Right? And I'm telling you, watch and continue to watch. Not literally watch a television. Just watch Auditor General's report. Have you heard anything since 2 weeks ago? Anybody?
In terms of the
In
various,
terms of anything, have you heard anything about Auditor General's report since the hullabaloo with University Hospital?
no, I mean, subsequent reports have varied into other things, but
Yes.
mind you, the media tends to hop onto what's sensational at the time, but no, nothing
Mhm.
recently.
And this is where we need to say to media, because since we're not necessarily going to sit and watch the report on the television, whichever station it comes on, because we're at work and so on and so forth. We need to call the media houses and tell them to tell us what next is there, what is happening, what is the result, we need to get on them too, because they are supposed to be our eyes and our ears. I won't tell you who else is our eyes and our ears when we get on to the other subjects. All right. So I'm going to leave it here for tonight, and I'm going to say to us, I'm going to begin now to give you work to do, right? So that you can demonstrate and practice, right? We're going to set up some budgets using the budgeting format and begin to deep dive into the cycle of financial control, how that happens, and so on, as we continue to flesh out this particular course. All right. So have a good evening, and I am going to be here on Friday. All right. When we begin some classwork, we'll begin to do some practice. All right. And then I will tell you when Naomi begins with you. And Naomi is going to do another interesting session with you, because we're going to look at corporate governance.
Miss,
Okay.
by chance, you did send the course outline for us?
I'm Miss Candice. I have call it a bad habit, but I call people by their first names. So check with Candice. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right, everybody. Have a good night. See you on Friday evening.
Good night, everyone.
All right, take care, Mrs. Sykes. Take care, everybody.
Night.
Good night, Mrs.
Good night.
Night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everybody.